Hey everybody, this is GGB Colts Peppers. We're going to be talking about the Panthers at Colts game. And honestly, this is one of my favorite games of the week, if I'm going to be honest. I really enjoyed this one. It was a nail-biter. All the QBs outside of one, and I'll talk about him later, played really well. So let's just get into this thing. Who did I think played really well? And in my opinion, it's most of these QBs. So let's just list them off. P.J. Walker, Jacob Eason, Sam Ellinger. I'll go to each of them individually. P.J. Walker went 10-21, threw for all 161 yards and a touchdown. He was playing for his backup role, right? Because right now, the Panthers have 3 QBs on the roster, right? And it's Sam Darnold, P.J. Walker, and Will Grier. Sam Darnold's the obvious starter. You need to play well enough that you can keep your job away from Will Grier and also make sure that some other free agent QB doesn't end up stealing your backup role, right? If you're P.J. Walker. P.J. Walker did that tonight. He looked like an extremely good QB. He had a couple passes that were off target, but I think that's what it's expected for a backup QB, especially a young one. If you were like Chase Daniel, I wouldn't accept it, but since this is P.J. Walker. This is a young guy. He is not that far into his NFL career. He is only 26 at this point, which is insane to me. But he has a lot of time left to become a really good QB, and I think he has the talent to possibly do it. Now, let's go on to the Colts. You had 2 QBs play tonight. 2 QBs, which just kind of shows you their decision on Brett Hundley. They brought him in. I don't see him starting. I don't see it happening. I mean, he could prove me wrong, but I don't see it taking place at the beginning of the season. If Carson Wentz is not ready to go, it's one of these 2 guys, and both of them played extremely well. Jacob Eason went 15-21, threw for 183 yards, 0 touchdowns, no picks though. Jacob Eason also, if you go back and watch the game, he had 2 incredibly nice deep balls. And honestly, he looks like a very well-rounded QB. But then you bring in Sam Ellinger. And Sam Ellinger looked like exactly the same player he was in college. He made a bad mistake early on and threw the pick. And I'm like, oh, this is the Sam Ellinger we all know and love. And then it became the 4th quarter, and I'm like, oh, this is the Sam Ellinger we all know and love. Sam Ellinger, again, he only threw 15 passes. He went 10-15, though, 155 yards. Now, no touchdowns and 1 pick. Now, that might not seem like great stats, but he led. They were down by 8 points, right? Down by 8 points with, he had 2 drives. He went down the field. He threw 2 incredibly sweet deep balls, right? He threw an incredibly sweet deep ball to Strahan, I want to believe, and then 1 incredibly nice deep ball to Vaughns. Both of them got them down the field. They were able to hand it off to LeMay, I believe, and they got a touchdown. And then Sam Ellinger did what we all know Sam Ellinger to do, and he ran into the end zone for a 2-point conversion. And then he was able to drive them down the field again to set up the go-ahead field goal to win the game. So again, this is Sam Ellinger. If you did not watch Sam Ellinger in college, he is this. This is exactly what he would do, except for he only did it for half. He would absolutely, it honestly seemed like he wouldn't even try until the 4th quarter. He was the comeback king at Texas. He would be like doing nothing. It would like look like Texas was 100% going to lose. You could go back and watch the Texas Tech game if you want from this season. Well, from when Ellinger went like 4th quarter, absolutely dynamite. They went and got a touchdown. They got an onside kick, got another touchdown, overtime, touchdown. It was just Ellinger was on fire. He's always on fire at the end of the 4th quarter, and this is what we saw out of Sam Ellinger. He's a winning QB. He wants, and he feels the need to win, and that's why I love watching Sam Ellinger play. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way. Another winner of the night, Chuba Hubbard. Now, Chuba Hubbard didn't have a great overall night, but he did have 1 phenomenal 59-yard run where he was just refused to go down, and then he was able to pounce out of the pile and just end up picking 59 yards on the round. And you can see the problem with Chuba Hubbard just in general. He doesn't have elite speed, but he does show you the promise he has. And on top of that, he looks like a good running back that could spell Christian McCaffrey, and I think that's what you need at this point since Mike Davis walked in free agency. Now let's go over to another running back that I thought won this game, and it was Benny LeMay. And Benny LeMay, I mean, like, I feel like most people can admit that, even Benny LeMay fans, the guy out of Charlotte, can admit he's not making this roster. Like, I feel like most reasonable people can admit that, because if you look at the Colts roster, you have Jonathan Taylor, you have Marlon Mack, which, I mean, like, most people who follow NFL know those two names. Jonathan Taylor was the second-round back out of Wisconsin from last year, and he was insanely good, taking over at the end of the year, and he became the main back in Indianapolis. You have Marlon Mack returning, who was insanely good before he got hurt last year, so I don't know who's going to be starting between the two of them. I think, personally, Jonathan Taylor, but Marlon Mack's definitely going to be on the roster. Nyheim Hines is a great third-down passing back out of NC State. And then if you're going to keep a fourth, it's going to be Jordan Wilkins. I feel like this is just a no-brainer. Benny LeMay is playing for a future in another roster. Now, technically, the 6 carries for 26 yards and 1 touchdown does not tell the full story, because he did have a very nice run. And if you want to go back and watch it, it's like probably under the worst penalty of the NFL season so far, because he, like, literally carries a pile for, like, 15 yards. It was insane. And then he, like, flexed on someone, and he got a penalty, and it brought them back. So I got to give him a win, because I think he played well enough to possibly get on another team's radar to pick him up going into maybe even the Panthers, because outside of Chuba Hubbard, they do not have much depth at running back, so maybe he can get a chance there. And then I'd like just one more in the receiving category. I got to go Terrace Marshall Jr. Terrace Marshall Jr. is a guy I don't see starting this year. He was kind of second round. Oh, maybe he will start. They have him set to start. I guess, yeah, that makes sense, because behind Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, they really don't have anyone too scary, and that's what brings Terrace Marshall Jr. into that number 3 spot role. But Terrace Marshall Jr. looked good. He had 3 catches for 88 yards. Great day for Terrace Marshall Jr. I'm really excited for this kid. Now let's go to some losers, guys. Some losers. And that loser, right off the bat, has got to be Will Grier. Will Grier's a loser. I don't say any other way around saying that. It's just true. Will Grier has been a disappointment of a draft pick if you're the Panthers organization. For God's sakes, this was the guy who was a third-round draft pick in 2019. He was looked to at one point. Now, again, not after anyone saw him have any playing time in the NFL. He was at one point looked to be possibly the future of this franchise. The future of the Panthers franchise. Yeah, that boat had long sailed. Again, he didn't have a bad completion percentage. 60% completion percentage. But he did go 6 of 10. 31 yards, so he averaged 3.1 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, no pick. Go back and watch that game. He is a horrible QB. I don't know how he's still in this league. I think it would just cost the Panthers too much to cut him at this point, but I don't see him making the roster. I think he's a waste of a third-string QB role, honestly. I don't know what else to say. Kylan Granson definitely shined a little bit. Oh, that's not a loser. Loser. That's all I got. No one really looked bad to me that much outside of Will Grier. I'm glad you guys listened, though. I really am glad you guys listened to this thing. But hey, everybody, this is GGB Carlos Pepper saying, adios, amigos.